صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعوذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة أفؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة أفوادي. فقال لي: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين عليه السلام نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معكما تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم يؤلمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم، مسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم، ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرض مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمس مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذن والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانية: يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذن والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا، فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة.
सोच सलाम और मर्सी के लिए दरख्वास्त गुजार हूँ जनाब हाशिम रज़ा साहब से तशरीफ़ लाएँ। पर मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम।
ज़िया भाई आ जाए यहाँ और मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम। बर दिगर नारे सलावत। نسیم بغیر رسالت ہیں فاطمہ زہرا شمیم گلشن جنت ہے فاطمہ زہرا شمیم گلشن جنت ہے فاطمہ زہرا ضیائے چشم محمد قرار قلب علی ضیائے چشم محمد قرار قلب علی امین عالم عصمت ہے فاطمہ زہرا نسیم بغیر رسالت محمد و آل محمد صلوات جناب مرحوم مصطفیٰ جوہر صاحب کا کلام بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات تطہیر کے مقصد کا محور فاطمہ تطہیر کے مقصد کا محور یعنی شرح عظمت نور پیمبر یعنی شرح عظمت نور پیمبر فاطمہ تطہیر کے مقصد کا محور ان سے پھیلا نور حق ان سے بڑی نسل رسول ایک کوثر ہیں علی اور ایک کوثر فاطمہ ایک کوثر ہیں علی اور ایک کوثر فاطمہ تطہیر کے مقصد کا کشتی دین خدا کی ناخدا سب تو شبر و شبیر جیسے دیکھ لنگر شبر و شبیر جیسے دیکھ لنگر فاطمہ تقدیر کے مقصد کا میں نام ہے تسبیح زہرا کام تسبیح ذکر تیرا ذکر حق اللہ اکبر ذکر تیرا ذکر حق اللہ اکبر فاطمہ کے مقصد کا میں سن رہی ہیں گفتگوئے رب و جبریل آمین چادر تطہیر میں عرش بری پرواز چادر تطہیر میں عرش بری پرواز تطہیر کے مقصد کا میں زہر شبر کو دیا ٹکڑے جگر کے پھر گیا شبر کی گردن پہ خنجر پھر گیا شبر کی گردن پہ خنجر فاطمہ تطہیر کے مقصد کا محور آیے تطہیر کہتی ہے زبان حال کل عصمت مصطفیٰ اور اس کا جوہر کل عصمت مصطفیٰ اور اس کا جوہر فاطمہ تطہیر کے مقصد کا محور یعنی شرح عظمت نور پیغمبر فاطمہ تطہیر کے محمد و آل محمد صلوات فاتحہ جب خلق سے وقت سفر فاطمہ آیا تب زینب و کلثوم کو پاک نے بلایا روئی بہت اور بیٹے کو چھاتی سے زینب کے دیا ہاتھ میں ہاتھ اور یہ زینب کے دیا ہاتھ میں ہاتھ اور یہ اے زینب بے کس میری دولت سے خبر محبوب الہی کی امانت سے محبوب الہی کی امانت سے بیٹی سے زہرا نے بڑے دکھ سے ہے پا یہ روح ہے میں جسم کی ہے یہ سووں بات سمجھی سے آنکھوں کی ضیا گھر کا حجرے سے کبھی گرم ہوا میں نہ حجرے سے کبھی گرم ہوا میں سوئی ہوں تو پہلے اسے چھاتی پہ سولا چکی بھی جو پیسی ہے تو گود میں چکی بھی جو پیسی ہے تو گود میں اے لاڈلی اس لال کا دشمن ہے شبیر کو میرے نظر بس تکلیف بھی سہ لیجیو ایزا بھی صدقے گئی مادر کی وصیت نہ بھولا صدقے گئی مادر کی وصیت ہر رنج میں اس بھائی کے کام آئی او جائے یہ جدھر ساتھ چلی جائے جائے یہ جدھر ساتھ چلی جائے زہرا نے کہا بس یہی میری ہے تا لے بیٹی میں خوش تجھ سے چلی دودھ بھی پھر رو کے یہ ہے در سے مخاطب ہوئی اب آپ سے ہے یہ سخن آخری اب آپ سے ہے یہ سخن آخری میں قبر میں پھاڑوں گی گریبان کفن ایزا نہ ہو کچھ میرے حسین اور حسن ایزا نہ ہو کچھ میرے حسین اور حسن مشہور ہے سب خلق میں یا شیر بچوں کی ہے بن ماں کے خرابی ہوتا سو فاطمہ تو ہوتی ہے آپ خلق کی تنہائی میرے بچوں کی تقدیر نے چاہی تنہائی میرے بچوں کی ہے تقدیر نے لپٹائیو سو بار گلے شام و سر میں قبر میں تڑپوں گی جو یہ روئیں گے گھر میں قبر میں تڑپوں گی یہ روئیں گے جب خلق سے وقت سفر فاطمہ محمد و آل محمد صلوات
حضرات آج کی مجلس کے بعد جیسا کہ آپ سب حضرات کے علم میں بھی ہے کہ تابوت جناب سیدہ برآمد ہوگا اور آج کے بعد کل بھی مجلس منعقد ہوگی آپ حضرات سے درخواست ہے کہ برائے کرم کل بھی اس امام بارگاہ میں تشریف لائیے گا اور اس کے ساتھ ہی نہایت ادب اور احترام سے قبلہ و کعبہ جناب مولانا رضوان رضوی صاحب سے درخواست گزار ہوں کہ تشریف لائیں اور رونق افروزی پہ بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات
اللهم صل على رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Tonight's Majlis is sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Shahriyar and Asma Heather, Mr. and Mrs. Faisal and Farwa Zaidi and family, Dr. Fahim and Dr. Fahreen Alam, Mr. and Mrs. Suhail and Hina Naqvi, Dr. and Mrs. Aqil and Afshin Ahmad. Please recite a Surah Fatiha for their deceased relatives as well as yours, including Sayyid Akhtar Hussain Zaidi ibn Sayyid Hamid Hussain Zaidi. Surah Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في حديث قدسي لولاك لما خلقت الأفلاك لولا علي لما خلقتك ولولا فاطمة لما خلقتكما صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is the second Majlis in this series of Majalis. Tonight being 2nd of Jumadul Akhirah. It's also the Shahadat of Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. And inshallah tomorrow will be the Majlis of the day of Shahadat, which as we have announced inshallah will be at 7 p.m. It's a working day tomorrow, so Majlis will start at 7 p.m. And that Majlis will be addressed by Molana Sayyid Ali Haidar Abidi in Urdu. Tonight, before I begin under the same Hadith-e Qudsi which I recited for you last night as well, that the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is divided into two parts, one that has appeared in Quran and the one that has not appeared in Quran. And of course, the source of both kalam is the Prophet. So Prophet received the wahi, the kalam through Jibreel al-Amin. He was informed whether this kalam is intended for Quran or this kalam is not intended for Quran. Or for example, when Prophet had ascended to Mi'raj and when Prophet spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the conversation that took place between the Khaliq and the Mahbub, that conversation is not part of Quran. That conversation is actually part of Hadith and again referred to as Hadith-e Qudsi. So there are many riwayat that we have received which are labeled as Hadith-e Qudsi. Even some Ahadith-e Qudsiya are related from our Imams, but there's no wasita in between which is ghayr masum. Meaning what? So you hear a hadith and the ultimate narrator heard it from 6th Imam, let's say. So Zurara, Bazanti, or these other muhaddithin, they heard it from 6th Imam or 7th Imam. And then they narrated it to their students, for example. And eventually the silsila continued for 3 or 4 generations. But Hadith Qudsi is something which is narrated only with Ma'soom in between. So when you hear that hadith, which is called Silsilatul Dhahab, from our 8th Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa Rada alayhi salatu wasalam, you find that Imam mentions the sanad of that hadith, while there isn't any ghayr ma'asum in the sanad. He narrates from his father, who narrated from his father, who narrated from 5th Imam, who narrated from 4th Imam, who narrated from 3rd Imam, who narrated from 1st Imam, who narrated from Rasulullah, who narrated from Jibreel Amin, who brought this message from Allah. So you don't find any غير ma'soom in between. This is called the golden chain, silsilatul dhahab. Because every person in this chain of transmitters is ma'soom. So therefore we find that kalam that has come to us, whether it's in Quran or outside of Quran, is coming from the Prophet. So one of the ahadith that Prophet narrated is this hadith in which it says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Rasulullah, لَوْلَاكَ لَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْأَفْلَاقِ. If it wasn't for you, I would not have created the universe. You are the wajh khilqate jahan. You're the purpose and the reason behind the creation of the entire human race and the entire universe. And we hear that in Hadith-e-Qisa as well. You just recited Hadith-e-Qisa, you just heard Hadith-e-Qisa, which talks about all the things that are created illa li ajlikum wa mahabbatikum, that it is created for your sake and for your love. This is the reason Allah makes that. After saying that, if it wasn't for you, I would not have created the universe, Allah says to the Prophet, لَوْلَا عَلِيٌّ لَمَا خَلَقْتُكَ. And if I had not created Ali, I would not have created you. And then the hadith goes furthermore by saying, لَوْلَا Fatima لَمَا خَلَقْتُكُمَا. If it wasn't for the creation of Fatima Zahra, Sayyidat al-Nisa'il Alameen, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, I would not have created you and Ali. And I gave an explanation. This does not degrade the maqam-e-wali of Rasulullah. This does not degrade the maqam-e-wala of Amirul Mu'mineen. This does not, bring the maqam of Janab Fatima Zahra above the maqam of Rasulullah and Amirul Mu'mineen. Why? She is tabi' of the risalat of Rasul, and she is tabi' of the imamat of Ali. So she cannot be superior to both of them. Therefore, we concluded the purpose behind it was not in that sense, rather meaningful way. You realize the superiority is not being mentioned as a person that she is superior, saying no. The message of Rasulullah is surviving due to the wujud of Ali, and the message of Ali survived due to Fatima Zahra through the progeny that comes from her children. And that is the reason, لَوْلَا Fatima. If it wasn't for Fatima, you would not have those 11 ma'asumeen, and the deen, as we know, would have ceased to exist. As far as this hadith is concerned, just one more note and then I'll move on. That Marhum Saleh al-Ansari, he says that one year he was reciting the Majlis of Ayyam-e-Fatimiyyah. And the city that he was in, he heard that Allama Amini was also in the city and he was very sick. He was Alil, Allama Amini, Sahib al-Ghadir. So he said, before going to the mimbar, I had some time, I wanted to go for the iyadat of Allama Amini. It's a big opportunity for me to be in that city, so that I might as well go ahead and pay a visit to someone who's Alil, and that too, someone like Allama Amini. And then, of course, I had a question or two to ask him as well. He said, as I was going, I ran into Ayatollah Saidi. He said, where are you going? I told him where I was headed. He said, I'll come along with you. So now there are two people who are narrating this. He said, we arrived at the house of Allama. We were brought inside. Allama was Alil, so he was laying on his bed. Doctors have told him to rest. And after asking him how he was doing and how was the prognosis and all that stuff, hopefully you feel better and all the ta'arrufat. And I said, I have a question from you. He said, before you ask your question, what is it about? He said, I have a question about Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. Allahumma salli. Upon hearing that, Allama Ani said, stop, before you ask a question, let me sit up. Let me sit up, because I don't want the name of that lady be brought in the mahfil where my legs are stretched out. Out of respect for her, let me sit up. While he was having trouble sitting up, we could see from the other side of the curtain, the ladies were saying, don't let Allama sit. He's not in a condition to sit. He's very frail at that moment. If he sits up, it could, something else might happen to him. Leave him sitting like that. But he said, no, if you're going to question about that lady, then I have to sit up because I cannot stand. I cannot be in that state, in disrespectful state, while the name of that lady is being brought. From that understanding, we might have the similar situation when we come to our majalis. You see how you train your children to sit with adab, not extending your feet, even if you're getting tired. He said, what is your question? After Allama was managed to sit up, he said, what is your question? He said, my question is regarding this hadith, Qudsi lawlak lama khalaqtuka, and all that stuff. Is this hadith true? Allama Amini, without a doubt, said absolutely true, mentioned the origin and the book which first quoted this hadith and the author, and also mentioned that the author is actually not amongst those who are the followers of Maktab-e Ahlulbayt. So the emergence of this hadith is not originally from the books of Shia, because that was the reason this Khatib Saleh Khansari, the reason he was asking the question, he said, I did not find this hadith in our manabe. Where is this hadith? He said, it's in that book which is quoted by the books of Ahl Sunnah, and it's not even our manabe. To mention the importance and where it comes from. A lot of times you get these questions nowadays that you're very exaggerative when it comes to the fadail of Ahlul Bayt. Majority of these things which you think are far-fetched and exaggerations are coming not from our books, rather coming from the books of our brothers. And therefore, this big commotion against Ayyam-e-Fatimiyyah or the Ayyam-e-Aza or the commemorations, this factory continues and begins and tries to disturb, saying that instead of doing this, you could do something else, for example. But nonetheless, our aqidah is musallam. Even if there are two different dates, as we mentioned, the 75-day or the 95-day, we continue to commemorate this shahadat because there's barakat in it for us, and nothing that is beneficiary to or providing any benefit to the lady for whom we have gathered over here. With that said, I wanted to clarify something which, is sometimes more than the aqidah, because it is part of our culture. And because it's a cultural thing, we put aside our aqaid and we bring cultural things in front, because this is how it's being done in our, wherever we come from, this is how it's done, so this is how we're going to continue to do it. When it comes to the masaib, and you will hear the masaib tonight, you will hear the details of the shahadat of this lady. There are many rawayat which talk about how many people were present on the night of shahadat. Some rawayat mention there were 9 men. Amongst them was Amirul Mu'mineen, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, and then Abbas, and then not Abbas ibn Ali, he's not born at that time. Abbas, the uncle of Rasulullah. Abbas is there, and then you have Zubair is there, you have Salman there, you have Miqdad there, you have Ammar there. 9 people are mentioned, and some riwayat mention the name of Hudayfa is there, some riwayat add a couple of other people. In any case, there were 9 men who were present on the night when Janab Sayyidah passed away. And these 9 men, 3 of them are Mahram, Amirul Mu'mineen, and Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein. The rest are not Mahram. Why do I mention this? That when it comes to taking out the tabut, that, just a clarification, no disrespect whatsoever, that it is said because it's the tabut of a lady, it should not be brought out into the men. Okay. We have janazas taking place all the time, men and women. In fact, there is a dead body or marhuma who passed away yesterday. There was a ghusl done over here. Body is still here and janaza will be taken out. And I'm sure many men will be taking part. But so, well, that's just ordinary person. That's Janab Sayyidah. When Janab Sayyidah's tabut was taken out, Amir al-Mu'mineen did not say to those men who were not part of the family, no, you can't be here. Ammar, you leave. Salman, you leave. Miqdad, you leave. Abbas, you leave. Huzaifa, you can't be here right now. Thank you very much for coming. Only me and Hassanan will be able to do it. And they were capable of doing it. You think these three people cannot lift the janazah of Janab Sayyidah? Of course they can. Very easily. But they didn't stop them. Yeah, they stopped the entire people of Medina to finding out. That's why there were only 9 people, as far as the men are concerned. Why there are only so few? Because the wasiyat of Janab Sayyidah dictates that I don't want the entire city, I don't want certain individuals to be finding out. Now, if you don't want to inform these certain individuals, you got to keep it hidden from the entire city. Because if it leaks out to any individual, then they will find out about it. And therefore, right away, the commotion will be that everybody comes to the house. In fact, people did start coming to the house of Janab Sayyidah on the night of her Shahadat. Salman Farsi went outside and said, no, we will inform you. She's not feeling well, we'll inform you eventually when it happens. Riwayat mentioned that too. So the point that I'm trying to make, without making it too tool or giving tool or lengthening it, that there were men present who took out the janazah and of course took it out and buried it. So from the aspect of Shariat, if you were to ask, we are muqalladeen of mujtahideen. If you were to ask even Imam of the time that it is okay for men to take this janazah out, he would say, well, nothing wrong with it. You are the children of that great lady, and so there's nothing wrong with it, and it would not be mani'e from the aspect of Shariat. Now, culturally speaking, we don't do this, that's okay. There's so many things we don't do culturally, there's so many practices we have culturally, it's not a big deal from that aspect. Culturally speaking, you think it's disrespect, that's okay. But from Shari'i aspect, there is no mane, there is no problem as far as the tabut of a lady coming into the men or the tabut of a man going into the lady, vice versa. Because the actual tabut in which there was the actual individual laying, because this is the replica of it, this is the imitation of it, this is the yad of that tabut that was brought out, then of course, when that did not have any issue, this should not have any issue either. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now coming back to the discussion that I wanted for tonight, I've already taken 15, 16 minutes from your time. This is an opportunity, of course, while we discuss the fadail and the masaib all year long, to take home something from the talimat and the teachings of Ahlulbayt. Because we consider them to be our role models. Right? Is there anyone here tonight who would say, well, I don't consider Ahlulbayt to be my role models? I'm sure everybody will say, yes, I consider them to be my role models. They are our role models only when we are inside the masjid. They are our role models when we are in the Imam Baragah. They are our role models when we are commemorating their wiladat and shahadat. Some go to the extent that there are role models that we do think that they have told us. For example, a father will go to length and the extent to find out, Molana, what is Mehr Fatimi? Because I want the Mehriya of my daughter to be Mehr Fatimi. But after the Mehriya has been set according to Mehr Fatimi, what happens after that has nothing to do with Fatima to Zahra. No, that's okay. As long as the ibtida was there. The beginning of our gathering begins with hadith qisas so that we can remember that Fatima is someone who is the markaz of this tathir. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when wants to introduce to Jibreel Amin that who are these individuals, he says, Hum Fatimatu wa abuha wa ba'luha wa banuha. That this is Fatima. He could have said easily, this is her father, Rasulullah. This is her husband, Amirul Mu'mineen Ali. These are the two children, Hassan and Hussein, Sayyid al-Shabab Ahl Jannah. No. Whom? They are who? Fatima. Did not mention the name of the father. Did not mention the name of the husband. Did not mention the name of the kids. Showing that who is the markaz of this taharat is the zat of Ayyam-e-Fatimiyyah Zahra salamullahi alayha. Salawat deji Muhammad wa ala Muhammad par. So we can't just limit them to be our role models only inside the masjid, inside the Imam Barga. The role models should be shown when you are outside of this gathering. Over here, the last thing on our mind is to be un-Islamic. We are at the best of our behaviors when it comes to the behavior of Islam when we are masjid ki char diwari mein. Here, nobody's going to act in a way which is right away sets off alarms. Here, everybody's going to be at their best behavior. The one that is taught by the kalamat and the words and the wisdom of Masumi. That's how we want to portray ourselves right here in this gathering. So our role models are only limited to these four walls. Outside of these four walls, no, someone else is our role model, unfortunately. Because who is a role model? The one you emulate, the one you imitate, the one you follow, the one you do things after what they have done. So if that's the case, then we are just, deceiving ourselves when we call ourselves to be what? That they are our role models. It's so easy, psychologically speaking, that in the daily life, at the public level, it's the best example to figure out and understand the behavior of mankind. With little attention and with little research, you can grasp some of the behaviors and you can do a survey and you can find out who is what. So I came up with 4 possibilities when it comes to marital relations. 4 possibilities. First possibility is some women are held captive by bad men. Second, some men are held captive by bad women. Number 3, bad and abusive behavior is mutual from both sides. And number 4, of course, both have a moral agreement between themselves. Tell me if there's a 5th one that you could think of. So in one case, one is Mazloom, the other one is Mazloom. Third case, both could be called Mazloom. And fourth case, neither of them are Zalim or Mazloom. Right? These are the 4 scenarios that you can come up with. With that said, we're talking about the role models. How were Amirul Mu'mineen and Fatima Zahra as husbands and wives? Husband and wife. How were they? Because when we're looking for them to be our beacon of light and role model for us, how were they as far as their relationship is concerned? That is something that every married couple and those youngsters who are sitting over here, inshallah, who are, aspiring to get married in future, should be looking for. And begin this practice from right now. This is what Janabe Amirul Mu'mineen said regarding Fatima Zahra. These are his words. He said, "Fawallahi, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by God, ma aghzabtuha wala akrahtuha ala amrin hatta qabazaha Allahu ilay." I did not force her, nor did I anger her, ever, for anything that I would ask her which will, make her angry or which will bring about ikrah in her life, hatta qabazaha Allahu, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took her ruh away. And then Imam said what? Wala aghzabatni wala asatli amran. And similarly, she never made me angry, nor did she disobey me in anything that I asked her for. وَلَقَدْ كُنْتُ أَنظُرُ إِلَيْهَا, and every time I would look at her face, فَتَنْكَشِفُ عَنِّي الْهُمُومُ وَالْإِحْزَانِ. It will do what? It will get rid of all the hammu gham, huzn and grief from my face as soon as I will look at her face. Has it happened to you that you might be struggling, going through difficult times, something bad is happening, and then you see someone who you really love, and doesn't have to be a spouse, maybe a fatherly figure, a mother, after a while that you see that for a moment takes you away from all your troubles. Right? You want to get away from all the troubles. Amirul Mu'mineen said, someone who would do that for me was my spouse. I never angered her, she never angered me. And so, well, that was a very perfect lifestyle. That is not possible when it comes to us human beings, because we consider them to be above humans. No, they were sent to display the lifestyle which you and I can adopt, which you and I can easily follow. Not to set standards which are so beyond our reach that we say, oh, this is just good for the books. These are good for knowledge, but nothing that I can live by. That's number one. Temporally, worldly life demands that certain things should be fulfilled and the needs of one another should be taken care of. While it may not be wajib upon the women or the wife, for example, this is something which is mentioned in the books of Risala Amaliya as well, to, for example, and don't quote me out of this so that, look, Molana said it, so I'm not going to do this anymore, that it may not be wajib upon the wife to, for example, cook or clean, and it is wajib on husbands to provide for them, right? On the contrary, husbands have to provide, and on the other side, wife does not have to do any of these things. The life will become very difficult if we only acted upon wajibat. This is not my wajib, this is your wajib, so you take care of this. If we only acted upon wajibat, the life will become so difficult that you will not be able to survive. Along with these few wajibat that we have toward each other, there are hundreds of mustahabbat that Janab Sayyida and Amirul Mu'mineen used to do for one another. So we overlook the mustahabbat because there are so many. We only count that which is wajib because there are so few. And so, well, this is not my duty, so I won't do it. This is your duty, so you should do it. The moment that concept comes about, what do you think is going to happen to this household? It's only going to break apart. It's only going to find more and more troubles. So when it comes to taqleed, yes, today people have a hard time doing the taqleed of a marja, but here I'm not asking you to do the taqleed of marja. I'm asking you to do the taqleed of those who are ma'soom, those who are sent to be the perfect role model. The reason for their perfection is not because they were ma'soom, they showed that perfection. The reason for their perfection is that you look up to someone who is flawless. But unfortunately today, when we look up to certain individuals, we find that they're only full of flaws, yet we're still following them. You not see many children go after role models that are full of flaws in their lives. But yet they're still going after them. Certain things that they do are still acting according to what these people are doing. So that is the reason why Masumeen are considered to be, they are Masum. In another tradition, our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam said, so before I narrate this, if a wife is doing the house chores, this is due to the fact that she is following the sunnah of Ayyam-e-Fatimiyyah Zahra. Think of it that way. If someone is degrading you for doing housework, which they shouldn't be, but you don't need anyone else's satisfaction, as long as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is radhi with you. Right? Qarati, Sahib Tafsir Noor, he said in one gathering that he was there, he said, Haji Agha, everyone is razi except 14. He said, well, everyone is millions. If the millions are razi from me, then I don't care about the 14 or 15. He said, who are these 14 or 15? He said, 14 ma'soom and one Allah. They're not razi. Everyone else is razi. And so, well, I don't need the razayat of the rest of the world, as long as I have the razayat of the Ahlulbayt. In this context, understand this tradition from our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam. Move forward a little bit if you can. Get up and move forward. A lot of people by the door, and they're still walking in. So if you can just move up and a little bit with the loud nara salawat, please. One more loud nara salawat, please. And these traditions are not just there for us to think about, listen, and then move forward. Imam said this, Inna Fatima daminat li'aliyin amal al-bayt wal-ajeen wal-khubz wa qamma al-bayt wa damina laha aliyun ma kana khalf al-bab naql al-hatub an yaji'a bit-ta'am. That as far as this relationship between these two individuals are concerned, they're living a life of simple human beings as simple family would live. They're not enjoying the extra favors and the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they don't have to work hard for to be able to provide for. No, they're doing the same thing as you would be doing, struggling to provide for the family. He said, but Fifth Imam said that Fatima daminat li aliyin. She gave dhamanat, guaranteed Amirul Mu'mineen regarding the things that she would take care of, amal al-bayt, wal-ajeen, wal-khubz, wa qamm al-bayt. As far as the cooking and cleaning and all of those things that were done inside the house were concerned, she took zamanat for that, saying, I'm not able to work outside, I'll take care of the things that are in the house. And what is the expectation? Ali ibn Abi Talib took care of makana khalf al-bab, that which was being done outside the house. For example, bringing the woods and bringing the food and bringing other things that were on his shoulder. He would take care of those things. This is how they divided between the two. Now the third discussion that comes about is appreciation. Although I said only a few minutes ago, they don't need appreciation from anyone as long as Allah is razi. But guess what? As human beings, we do need appreciation. Without the appreciation, you cannot move forward. Just take an example of this facility that you're sitting in. If it wasn't for your continuous generous donations and appreciation, this place would not be where it is, 22 years ago, right? 20 years ago when it was bought. With all the facilities that now exist. It's appreciation. Yeah, of course there were hurdles on the way, but there were more appreciations. And even with the hurdles, the criticism, what does criticism do? Makes you do something better. Makes you fix yourself. So we appreciate what? Both criticisms as well as appreciation. But when it comes to family, appreciation is very important. Look at how Amirul Mu'mineen is appreciating his wife. That is a rare thing that you will find in our families. The appreciation that comes. Imam is appreciating his wife in front of someone else. Riwayah says this, Anna Amirul Mu'mineen qala li rajulin min Bani Asad. Imam is speaking to a man from Bani Asad. Not necessarily someone who's a family member, a cousin or relative or whatever the case may be. Qala li rajulin min Bani Asad. He said to a man from Bani Asad, Ala uhaddithuka anni wa an Fatimatu Zahra. Do you want me to tell you about myself and Fatimatu Zahra? The man said, sure. Imam said, فَاسْتَقَتْ بِالْقِرْبَى حَتَّى أَثَرَ فِي صَدَرِهَا. She carries the water skin, and she carried the water skin so much that there are the athar and the marks of that water skin on her body. وَطَحِنَتْ بِالرَّحَى حَتَّى مَجْلَتْ يَدَاهَا. She kneaded the flour to so much that her hands have become stiff. You continue to knead the flour, that's what will happen to your hands. كَسَاهَتِ الْبَيْتِ حَتَّى خُبُرَّتْ ثِيَابُهَا. She cleaned the house so much that until her clothes become all dusty. وَأَوْقَدَتْ تَحْتَ الْقِدَرِ حَتَّى دَكِنَتْ ثِيَابُهَا. She would lit the fire underneath the pot, underneath the stove, so much that her clothes and, you will see the athar of burning on her body as well. فَأَصَابَهَا مِنْ ذَلِكَ ضَرٌّ or دُرٌّ شَدِيد. And there are a lot of other things that has happened due to all of these works that she has done. Imam said that I told my wife one day, فَقُلْتُ لَهَا, I said to her one day, لَوْ أَتَيْتِ أَبَاكِ فَسَأَلْتِهِ خَادِمًا يَكْفِيكِ. If you were to go to your father, who is Khatimul Anbiya, Sayyidul Mursaleen, who's got everything in his possession. Now, of course, Imam is not suggesting that she should go ahead and do this, but he's mentioning this to others so that this message reaches us, the philosophy behind it. He said, if you were to go ask your father, he will arrange for you a khadim, yakfika, who will be able to take care of all of these things that unfortunately you have to do. Janab Fatima said that I came to Rasulullah, فَوَجَدْتُ عِنْدَهُ هُدَّافًا فَاسْتَحْيَيْتُ فَانْصَرَفْتُ. I came to my father to speak about this. Now in some riwayat she came and she spoke about it and Rasulullah taught her the tasbih. In some riwayat she came, she saw that there were many people who were in worse conditions. Asking my father for something similar, I feel ashamed of putting my plea in front of my father. I left that place and without asking him. This is Amirul Mu'mineen. Now, Janab Sayyid does not need anyone telling this to others. But if someone is informed of what she is going through, especially through the kalam of her husband, just imagine the level of appreciation that she gets from it. So if you and I are the followers, and we are the muqalladeen of ma'asumeen, and if we consider them to be our role models outside of the masajid and Imam Barga, then this is the Sirat and the Sunnat of Ali, that he appreciated his wife for the basic works that she used to do inside the house. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And then Ali did not stop there. There's a diwan associated to Amirul Mu'mineen, Diwan Amirul Mu'mineen. Imam had said a lot of ash'ar. So there are a lot of ash'ar that are associated to Imam Ali. So one of the last works that my late father was doing was collecting all of the ash'ar of Amirul Mu'mineen, translated them, doing the tashrih. And of course, he was not able to complete that project. It still remained incomplete. That was all the ash'ar that are found in variety of the books that are associated to Amirul Mu'mineen. One of the discussions that Imam had with Muawiyah before the Battle of Sham or Battle of Safin, Imam ﷺ said this to him: Minna khayru nisa'il alameen wa minkum hammalat al-hatab. Imam is taking pride in what? That amongst us, from us, is the one who is considered to be the Sayyidatu Nisa'il Alameen. Who is amongst you? Hammalat al-Hatab. The one who used to carry the woods. Jamil, the wife of Abu Lahab, who's mentioned in Quran as well, Hammalat al-Hatab. Imam, by mentioning this, is saying to Muawiyah what? That we are taking pride that wujood of Fatima Zahra in our family, and a matter of disgrace for you is because Hammalat al-Hatab is from your family. And then Imam says these ash'ar. And that is the ultimate when it comes to the poetry, right? Imagine a husband writing a poetry or ash'ar for their wife, for their spouse. Imam said this regarding Fatima: Fatima, Zat al-Majd wal-Yaqeen. Fatima, Zat means sahib. She is the possessor, sahibul Majd, meaning izzat and honor and integrity, wal yaqeen and yaqeen. Ya bint khair an-nas ajma'een. So I'll read it first so that it sounds that Ya Fatima Zat al-Majd wal yaqeen, Ya bint khair an-nas ajma'een. Fatima bint Sayyid al-Kareem, bint Nabiyyin laysa bid-Damim. And then he says, Ana lil fakhre ilayha wa bi nafsi attaqayha ni'matan min samik as-sab'i bima qad khassaniha. These are the words of Amirul Mu'mineen in praise to Janab Sayyida. What does he say? He says, Fatima is someone who is Dhatul Majd, possessor of Majd, Izzat and honor, and Yaqeen. And then he says, she is the daughter of Khairun Nasi Ajma'een, the best of the human beings. No one is superior to him. Then he continued by saying, Fatima bint Sayyid al-Kareem. She is the daughter of Sayyid, the leader of all those who are honorable and noble and Kareem. Bint Sayyid Nabiyyin laysa bid-dameen. She is the daughter of a Nabi, laysa bid-dameen, that no one can dare do madammat and scold this Nabi. No one has ever scolded this Nabi, and no one can ever scold this Nabi. Ana lil faqri alayha. I take pride in Fatimatu Zahra. Wa bi nafsi attaqayha. And I take pride in the taqwa and parhezgari and asceticism of Fatimatu Zahra. Ni'matan min samik as-sab'i bima qad khassaynaha. That she is the ni'mat from the one who raised the seven skies and the heavens. She is the ni'mat from that Rabb of mine who gave it to be my naseeb, that she is my wife. It's not an ordinary individual who's praising his wife. This is Amirul Mu'mineen saying this regarding Fatima Zahra. Waliyal fakhru ala nasi bi'ursi wa baniha. And I have pride over all of mankind upon my urs or irs, both are used in Arabic as she being my wife, wa baniha, and the two children that she provided me with. Thumma fakhri bi rasulillahi id zawwajaniha. And then my fakhr and pride is to Rasulullah, who actually went ahead and married me to Fatimatu Zahra. These are the ash'ar that you find in the divan of Amirul Mu'mineen. Regarding who? Regarding Fatimatu Zahra, salamullahi alayha. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So as we declared in the beginning, there are 4 types of marital relationships, right? Amongst them, there are certain individuals who help out each other when it comes to things that are not their responsibility. So you'll find certain spouses, certain women help taking care of the house and raising the children, and some help out materialistically as well, which is not asked, that they go ahead and do this help materialistically. Aside from this, doing all of this, Fatimatu Zahra was a help to Amirul Mu'mineen intellectually and as well as spiritually. Let the spouse, let this sink in, that not only as far as raising the kids you're helping out, not just taking care of the children you're helping out, not maintaining the house only. Those are things which are understood. In fact, if you were to give an animal that sort of facility, they will be taking care of this as well. Taking care of their family, taking care of their kids, taking care of the house that they have built. This is a given. This is something which everyone should be doing. It is understood already. He said, what is the role of husband and wife towards each other then? He said, Fatimatu Zahra not only did all of those things which are mentioned, she also helped out intellectually and spiritually. He said, Amirul Mu'mineen, who is Kamal-e Aql, who is the perfect man, human being, Janab Sayyida is helping out intellectually. There's a riwayat for that as well. Again, maybe many of these riwayat are there as a lesson for us, not necessarily looking at Amirul Mu'mineen that he did not know something. So there's this riwayat which says that one day Amirul Mu'mineen dakhala alayha aliyun, that Ali entered upon Fatimatu Zahra, wa bihi ka'ibatun shadidatun. He was in distress. You know, we already mentioned whenever he would come in distress, he would look at the face of Fatimatu Zahra, all the huzn and grief would go away. Let's make our houses that way, that when we see each other, our grief and huzn go away. He says what? When he entered, there was this deep distress on the face of Amirul Mu'mineen. فَقَالَتْ مَا هَذِهِ الْكَائِبَةِ. Why are you under distress, O Ali? فَقَالَ سَأَلَنَا Rasulullah. Rasulullah asked us something. أَنْ مَسْأَلَةٍ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ إِنْدَنَا جَوَابٍ. Rasulullah asked us a question, and we did not have the answer to that question. Now, of course, realizing, let me just clarify this before this gets blown out of proportion, that how does Amirul Mu'mineen not know something that Rasulullah is asking? Similar to when Rasulullah goes to Mi'raj, Allah asks him a question, and Rasulullah says what? In adri, I don't know. His knowledge is beyond our understanding, but it's still not superior to the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? The knowledge of Allah is absolute. Whatever He has given to His Rasul, all the knowledge that He has. Now the question that Allah was asking Rasulullah in that hadith of Mi'raj is something which you and I can also to an extent give an answer to. So why couldn't Rasulullah give those answers? Maybe out of respect. Oh Allah, you are here, you are telling, it'll be better if you told me and informed me rather than me saying something. Right? There might be an answer that you know. But you say, because marja taqleed is sitting over here, why should I open up my mouth? Let him say, even if I know the answer. So this is the maqam of someone who's in your gathering, in your presence, and you so remain silent. So that could be the case with Amirul Mu'mineen over here. He said that Rasulullah asked us a question, we did not know the answer. And that has given this distress to Amirul Mu'mineen. Janab said, what was the question? He said, Rasulullah asked us, first he asked us, what do you think is a woman? We responded to that. The woman is the example of modesty and bashfulness. Rasulullah said, Alhamdulillah, that is correct. Then he asked us, when is she closest to Allah? We did not have the proper answer for that. No. When is a man closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? One of the riwayat mentioned, إِذَا كَانَ جَائِعًا أَوْ سَاجِدًا. When you are in the state of sajda and you are hungry, empty stomach. Meaning, you're in Ramadan, when you do sajda, you are closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah who's closer than the jugular veins, right? So if we did not know the answer, how would we appropriately answer that when is a woman closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Wouldn't it be the same thing as the men? No, there could be multiple answers. So we did not know the right answer, and that is something which has gotten to me. Janab Sayyidah said, go back to my father and tell him the answer to the question. This is how Janab Sayyidah is helping out her husband intellectually. She said, a woman is closest to Allah when she tends to the inside of her house and protects herself from the strangers outside. When she does that, she is closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amirul Mu'mineen came to Rasulullah, said that your daughter has responded to that question like this. Rasulullah says, Saddaqat anna Fatima bada'atun minni. It is true that Fatima to Zahra is part of me. Salawatullah Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I know I have run out of my time, but just one last segment from the life of Janab Sayyidah. That she did not live a very luxurious life. And there's nothing wrong in enjoying the luxuries of the life. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as they're coming from the halal means, and as long as we're not extravagant, right? Extravagance is what Islam wants us to keep in check. So there's nothing wrong in enjoying as far as everything is halal and nothing is beyond extravagance. But by any means, you look at the life of Janab Sayyidah and Amirul Mu'mineen, it was not a very luxurious life that they spent. It was not a very glamorous life that you and I sometimes aspire for. The short and a simple life of Fatima was accompanied by many calamities. There were many calamities that came in her life. And these 18 years of her life, if it could be summarized, it could be summarized from this one riwayat from Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. Jabir is very close to this house. In fact, every time in our gatherings, if there's a name of any individual which is mentioned more outside of Ahlulbayt, it is the name of Jabir. Beginning of Hadith Qissa, what do you say? An Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. So Jabir is very close. Jabir is someone who was given this news from Rasulullah that you will see the fifth one. And when you see him, convey my salam to him. Jabir had gone blind. Jabir went to see Imam Baqir when he was, so many years later. Jabir is also someone who is the first Zair of Sayyid al-Shuhada. The one who marked, if Arba'een started from anywhere, started from the Sirat of Jabir. Anyways, coming back to this riwayat from Jabir. He said, Annahu ra'an Nabi. That he said, Nabi Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he saw Fatima, wa alayha kisa'un min ajilatil ibil. She was wearing a cloak made of the wool from a camel. Wa hiya tathanu bi yadiha wa turdi'u waladaha. And she was preparing the food and she was, nursing the child as well. فَدَمَعَتْ أَيْنَا رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. The tears of Rasulullah came into his eyes. So he showed tears coming out, meaning he's feeling sad looking at the condition of his daughter. فَقَالَ يَا بِنْتَهِ تَعَجَّلِي مَرَارَةَ الدُّنْيَا بِحَلَاوَةِ الْآخِرَةِ. Now you can translate the word ta'ajjali multiple ways. I thought this would be the better translation, that trade the bitterness of this world with the sweetness of the hereafter. You're facing these troubles right here, they might be bitter. Face this bitterness of this worldly life. You're trading it with what? The sweetness that will be offered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. Now look at the response by Janab Sayyidah. This is what the father is saying to the daughter. So a lesson for the fathers as well. When you see daughters, for example, if they're struggling and having some difficulties, instead of further causing a divide and inciting, rather giving these kalimat of hope and sabr would be better than breaking the house. Oh my daughter, face the bitterness of this world and trade it with the hereafter. Of course, if something which is unbearable, I'm not saying that you continue to say that if it's unbearable. But if it's something which is very minor, then this should be the advice coming from fathers to their daughters. You know what Janab Sayyidah responded by saying? She said, فَقَالَتْ يَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ عَلَى نِعْمَائِهِ وَالشُّكْرُ لِلَّهِ عَلَى آلَائِهِ. Praise be to Allah for all the favors that He has given me, and وَالشُّكْرُ, and thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the bounties that He has bestowed upon me. أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ, this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent this ayat, وَلَسَوْفَ يُؤْتِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى, and qareeb, Allah will give you something which will be of your satisfaction. So you see, she used two words over here. Alhamdulillah ala ni'ma'ihi wa shukru lillah ala ala'ihi. Both are translated as the same. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Ala also means what? Bounties. Ni'mat also means favors and bounties. Why did she use two different words? Some mention, looking at this riwayat, further studying the kalam of Janab Sayyidah, the peak of the eloquence of the kalam of Janab Sayyidah, that she is praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the ni'mat that Allah has given to her in this life, and these ni'mat are ma'navi, and the favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to her, which are ghayr ma'navi. Meaning what? The materialistic favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am thankful to Him. And the spiritual favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Janab Sayyidah is someone who's thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for both of these things. Salawatullah Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There were other things inshallah we'll discuss if we have the opportunity at another time. That this is the moment, this is the time, this is the occasion when we can make this dua along with this covenant. That may Allah give us the tawfiq to be considered amongst those who are recipient of the shafa'at of Fatima to Zahra. Let us be those who are considering her to be the true role model, inshallah. And more importantly, let us also be amongst those who successfully implement her lifestyle into our lifestyles. Does that mean that you go back to the thing that she used to do, literally? Chakki ka piece na, aate ko. No, not those things that is being referred to over here. That could be used metaphorically, what she used to do in the household. Similarly, looking at what are the things that could be done in today's household. And this is where the sa'adat of this world and the sa'adat of the hereafter could be achieved. But yes, I mentioned briefly in between that when her janaza was taken out, and the whole concept of taboot and all that stuff, and once again, it was not an intention to hurt anyone's cultural feelings. No, it was just something which a lot of time is raised as a question, and I wanted to address that. That she is someone who is the daughter, only daughter of Sayyidul Mursaleen. She is the only daughter of Khatimul Anbiya. She is someone for whose father the entire universe pays respect, and all the Anbiya from Khatim until Isa will stand up for Rasulullah. But what is her maqam? That when all the Anbiya stand up for the Zat of Rasul, Rasul is someone who stands up for Fatima. And when Rasul is standing up for Fatima, it does not mean that Rasulullah is doing it just because Fatima is Fatima. True. Rasulullah is also teaching us a lesson. That if your daughter is also named after Fatima, then that daughter should live up to the name of Fatima, and you should also treat her the same way Rasulullah treated her daughter. That's how we can bring Ahlulbayt into our lives. Otherwise, we're slipping away from their lifestyles. Last night, when we started the Masaib, we got to the point when Janab Sayyida has lost her father. Losing a father is a very tough and difficult thing. That too, when your father is not an ordinary individual. Khatimul Anbiya, Sayyidul Mursaleen, and how she coped with all of that. But it's still after the wafat of Rasulullah, there were many masaib that came upon Fatima Zahra. But she did not complain for any of those masaib. She did not complain only, so keep in mind the word that I'm using only does not mean that crime was not big enough to be complained. She did not complain for the fact that her house were burned down. Or she would not complain, let me rephrase, the fact that the door was brought down. She would not complain, for example, that she was pressed between the door and the wall. She would not complain, for example, that she lost her unborn baby, Mohsin. While these are all big crimes. She would even overlook the fact that Amirul Mu'mineen was dragged. She would not complain for that either. But it's mentioned that she would complain for two things. Two things. All of these brought harm to her, hurt her badly, but not as much as these two things that I'm about to tell you. Losing a child, being pressed like that, having your body parts broken, all of those are masa'ib. But she's not worried about those things. What she's more worried about the fact that the only daughter of Rasulullah stands in front of Khalifa, and the Khalifa says, "You're not Siddiqa, we do not trust your words. The claim that you're making is a lie, we do not trust what you're saying." That's more hurtful. That's more harmful. When someone denies your truthful nature, has it happened to you ever? That you're on truth, you're on haqq, and someone denies you of your truthfulness and your haqq. How damaging is that? And number two, that she would complain is the fact that she was not allowed to weep after the wafat of Rasulullah. Isn't it a genuine right of a daughter to be able to weep and cry for her father? The people of Medina are saying, "Oh, Abul Hasan, tell your wife not to cry. I guess this is where the bid'at of crying has come. Although this did not exist in the time of Rasulullah, Rasulullah wept himself and cried for the loss of his sons. Rasulullah, when he saw after the battle of Uhud that the women were wailing and crying for their deceased who had died in the battle of Uhud, Rasulullah did not stop them, only said, I wish there was someone who would cry for Hamza. Because nobody was weeping for Hamza. So the women then directed their attention toward Hazrat Hamza and they would cry for him. You know, Janab al-Sayyida, those who have visited Medina, they have gone to the graveyard where the body of Hazrat Hamza is buried near the grounds of Uhud, which is away from Masjid-e-Ali. It is mentioned, a Ravi mentions Lubayd, he says that one day I was passing by that bayaban and I heard the voice of someone crying. I went up, I saw Janab al-Sayyida was sitting on the grave of Hamza. Allah, your voices are raised. She was not allowed to weep. How can you deprive someone from weeping for their father? But Janab al-Sayyida, towards the end of her life, has become so weak. I mentioned this. She became so weak that it was very difficult for her to stand up and pray. Getting up from the bed and standing up to go ahead and do wudu, Janab al-Sayyida would need Sahara. She would grab onto the door, she would grab onto the wall before she could go ahead and do anything. And in this moment, Amirul Mu'mineen comes. This is the night where Janab al-Sayyida is having a tough time offering namaz al-Maghrib and Isha. This is the household which emphasizes a great deal when it comes to salat. Even Zainab did not miss namaz-e-Shab in Karbala on the day of Ashur. And that's why Imam Hussain asked her, Ya Zainab, Ya Ukhti, la tansini. Do not forget me in your Salatul Layl. Janab al-Sayyida had a very tough time offering tonight, this night, the night of her Shahadat. Salatul Maghrib and Isha. There was no strength left in her body to go ahead and offer this salat, but she offered it somehow. The body which did not have any power, night time, when Amirul Mu'mineen, who's always by her side throughout the night, Amirul Mu'mineen only goes in the morning for Fajr to go to masjid, and when Imam comes back, what does he see? That he sees that Fatima has gotten up from the bed, she has cleaned up the house, she has prepared the food, she has already offered the salat. He says, Amirul Mu'mineen says to Fatima, Oh Fatima, you could not even get up last night to perform Salatul Isha. How did you gain this energy? She said, I slept after Fajr, I saw my father in my dream. My father Rasulullah came and he was not alone. My mother Khadija also came and they said to me, Oh our daughter, soon you are coming to us. I understood that this could be my last day. I don't want to leave the house in the state where my children will remain hungry. Ajrukum Allah. So I took care of all the household needs. Amirul Mu'mineen weeps. He cries. The daily routine of Sayyida was to go to the grave of Rasulullah. The daily routine was to take Hasanain there as well. Amirul Mu'mineen says to Asma, where are the children? He said they'd go to the grave of Rasulullah every day. Janab Sayyida goes inside the room. She says, Asma, do not disturb me. As long as my voice is heard, understand that I'm still alive. Ali goes after looking for Hasanain. When he comes there, he sees that Hasanain are not there. They have already made it back to the house. Hasanain come. They ask, Oh Asma, where is our mother? She says, why don't you go ahead and eat something? They said, Oh Asma, have we ever eaten without our mother? You know the response that they got? She said, Oh children, you will have to get in the habit of eating without your mother.
اجرکم علی اللہ، خدا کسی غم میں نہ رلائے سوائے غم آل محمد کے، بس یہ سننا تھا۔ ایک دفعہ حسنین آتے ہیں ماں کے قریب، امام حسن بڑے ہیں، ماں کے پاؤں پہ ہیں، حسین آتے ہیں ماں کے سر پہ، آ کے گفتگو کرتے ہیں مگر کوئی جواب نہ ملا۔ کئی بار سلام کیا، فاطمہ کی روح قبض پرواز کر چکی ہے، روح قفس عنصری سے پرواز کر چکی ہے، بس وہ وقت آتا ہے۔ ایک دفعہ علی پلٹے، جب پہنچے گھر پہ کہا کیا ہوا؟ میں نے حسنین کو قبر پہ نہ پایا۔ کہا حسنین آ چکے ہیں۔ کہا مجھے جبرائیل نے خبر دی کہ حسنین کو سیدہ سے دور کرو۔ ارے عرش الہی لرز رہا ہے۔ بس وہ وقت آتا ہے، امیر المؤمنین نے غسل و کفن کی تیاری کی۔ آپ نے بارہا یہ مصائب سنے، ابھی غسل و کفن چل رہا تھا کہ ایک دفعہ علی کے چیخنے کی آواز آئی۔ زینب نے پوچھا بابا آپ غسل دیتے ہوئے چیخے، اس کی وجہ کیا تھی؟ علی نے بتایا کہ 75 دن گزر گئے یا 95 دن گزر گئے، ابھی تک فاطمہ کے سینے پہ ارے اس کے نشانات ہیں، کوڑوں کے نشانات ہیں، ارے پسلی کے ٹوٹنے کا نشان ہے۔ اجرکم علی اللہ، بس وہ آخری جملے اور زحمت تمام۔ وہ وقت آتا ہے، مدینے والوں سے مخفی رکھا گیا کہ فاطمہ اس دنیا سے گزر گئی ہیں۔ شب کی تاریکی میں امیر المؤمنین نے جنازہ اٹھایا، فاطمہ کی درخواست پہ ایسا تابوت بنایا جس میں جسم نہ نظر آئے۔ تابوت کا اٹھنا تھا، ابھی تابوت برآمد ہوگا، زیارت کریں گی خواتین۔ ابھی اس طریقے سے تابوت اٹھایا، لیکن لے کے چلے ہیں۔ علی نے رات کی تاریکی میں دفنا دیا۔ کچھ روایات کے مطابق 7 قبریں، کچھ روایات کے مطابق 40 قبریں بنائیں۔ اگلے روز جب مدینے والوں کو پتا چلا کہ فاطمہ اس دنیا سے چلی گئیں اور ہم نے ان کے اوپر جنازے پہ نماز جنازہ بھی نہ پڑھی، ایک دفعہ مجمع اکٹھا ہوتا ہے، آتے ہیں، کہتے ہیں نبش قبر کریں گے، ارے فاطمہ کی قبر کو کھودیں گے، دوبارہ اس کو نکالیں گے تاکہ جنازہ پڑھ سکیں۔ علی کو خبر ملی، وہ صابر علی جو اب تک خاموش تھا، اپنی مظلومیت کے اوپر کوئی آواز نہ اٹھائی تھی، ایک دفعہ تلوار کھینچی، کہا اگر کسی نے فاطمہ کی قبر پر ہاتھ اٹھایا، ایک بھی پتھر ہلایا تو علی سے برا کوئی نہ۔ الا لعنۃ اللہ القوم الظالمین وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون۔ ماتم حسین۔
یا حسین،
سیدہ طاہرہ، سیدہ طاہرہ، سیدہ طاہرہ، سیدہ طاہرہ، سیدہ طاہرہ، سیدہ طاہرہ، سیدہ طاہرہ تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، 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 پھر وہ جلتا ہوا در مجھ پہ، پھر وہ جلتا ہوا در مجھ پہ گرایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، پھر وہ جلتا ہوا در مجھ پہ، پھر وہ جلتا ہوا در مجھ پہ گرایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، تیری امت نے بیٹھ کر پڑھتی ہوں مشکل سے نماز شب بھی، پھر بھی عباس کی خلقت کی دعا بھولی نہیں، جب بھی زخمی ہوئے ہاتھوں کو اٹھایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، بیٹھ کر پڑھتی ہوں مشکل سے نماز شب بھی، پھر بھی عباس کی خلقت کی دعا بھولی نہیں، جب بھی زخمی ہوئے ہاتھوں کو اٹھایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا 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 بابا، لوٹ کر آئی تو چہرہ بھی میرا زخمی تھا، میری زینب تو میری پیشی کا پہلا نوحہ، میرے بالوں کی سفیدی نے سنایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا لے چلے قیدی بنا کر جو علی کے دشمن، میں نے چھوڑا نہیں حیدر کی ابا کا دامن، تازیانوں نے مگر مجھ سے چھڑایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا 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 بابا، زخمی حالت میں بھی دہلیز سے باہر آئی، اور علی ولی اللہ بچا کر لائے، عہد جو میں نے کیا تھا وہ نبھایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، تیری امت تیری امت نے میرے گھر کو جلایا بابا، تیری امت خود یہ دیکھا ہے تیرے شہر کی دیواروں نے، کیسی غربت تھی کہ ہاتھوں میں ستمداروں نے رسیاں باندھ کے حیدر کو پھرایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے گھر کو جلایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، مارا ہے فاطمہ کو سب نے رلا رلا کر، مارا ہے فاطمہ کو سب نے رلا رلا کر، مارا ہے فاطمہ مارا ہے فاطمہ کو سب نے رلا رلا کر، مارا ہے فاطمہ کو سب نے رلا رلا کر،
زہرا کا در جلا کر، زہرا کا در جلا کر، زہرا پہ در گرا کر مارا فاطمہ کو، ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو، کر ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو، زہرا کا در جلا کر، زہرا کا در جلا کر، زہرا پہ در گرا کر مارا ہے فاطمہ کو، سے فاطمہ کی آتی یہی صدا ہے، پہلو سے ہاتھ میرا اب تک نہیں ہٹا ہے، مہدی مجھے سنبھالو، مہدی مجھے سنبھالو، غیبت سے جلد آ کر مارا فاطمہ کو، زہرا کا در جلا کر، زہرا کا در جلا کر، زہرا پہ در گرا کر مارا ہے فاطمہ کو، سب نے رلا رلا کر ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو، دربار سے ضعیفہ گھر کی طرف چلی ہے، اللہ ہی جانتا ہے کتنی دفعہ گری ہے، لائے ہیں اپنے گھر تک، لائے ہیں اپنے گھر تک، حسنین خود اٹھا کر مارا فاطمہ کو، رلا رلا کر ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو، زہرا کا در جلا کر، زہرا کا در جلا کر، زہرا پہ در گرا کر مار ہے فاطمہ کو، رلا رلا کر ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ، ظالم کا تازیانہ جس ہاتھ پر لگا ہے، وہ ہاتھ فاطمہ کا اٹھ ہی نہیں رہا ہے، پڑھتی ہیں اب نمازیں، پڑھتی ہیں اب نمازیں، ایک ہاتھ ہی اٹھا کر مارا فاطمہ کو، سب نے کر ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو، رلا کر ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو، آ کر ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ، پہلو میں درد اتنا ہے کہ تڑپ رہی ہے، چلنا بھی اب ہے مشکل، اٹھ اٹھ کے گر رہی ہے، چلتی ہے ایک شانہ، چلتی ہے ایک شانہ، دیوار سے لگا کر مارا ہے فاطمہ کو سب نے رلا رلا کر، ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو لا کر، ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو کہہ کے یتیم خود کو شبیر جب کہ روئے، دو ہاتھ فاطمہ کے بندے کفن سے نکلے، سینے پہ روئی اپنے سینے پہ روئی اپنے شبیر کو سلا کر مارا فاطمہ کو رلا رلا کر، ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو لا کر، ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو زہرا کا در جلا کر، زہرا کا در جلا کر، زہرا پہ در گرا کر مار ہے فاطمہ کو ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو منظر بڑا کٹھن تھا جس دم لگا تماچا، سر بنت مصطفیٰ کا دیوار سے لگا تھا، منہ پیٹتے تھے حیدر منہ پیٹتے تھے حیدر، آنکھوں سے خون بہا کر مارا فاطمہ کو سب نے رلا رلا کر، ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو کر، ہے مارا ہے فاطمہ کو زہرا کا در جلا کر، زہرا کا در جلا کر، زہرا پہ در گرا کر ماں ہے فاطمہ کو سب نے رلا رلا کر، مارا ہے فاطمہ کو سب نے رلا رلا کر، سیدہ طاہرہ سیدہ طاہرہ سیدہ طاہرہ سیدہ طاہرہ سیدہ طاہرہ یہ غربت علی ہے، 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 حق مانگنے جو زہرا، حق مانگنے جو زہرا دربار میں گئی ہے، غربت علی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے، آواز
آواز آ رہی ہے، میں بنت مصطفیٰ ہوں، بابا کے کلمہ گویوں میں ہی تو فاطمہ ہوں۔ پہچاننے سے دنیا انکار کر رہی ہے، غربت علی، یہ غربت علی ہے۔ علی ہے، سن کر سلام حیدر کوئی نہیں ہے رکتا، واجب نہیں سمجھتا کوئی جواب دینا، افسوس فاطمہ بھی یہ بات جانتی ہے، غربت علی، یہ غربت علی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے۔ مسجد میں سر جھکائے مولا کھڑے ہوئے ہیں، حاکم کی تہمتوں کو چپ چاپ سن رہے ہیں، صدیق سب کے آگے جھٹلائی جا رہی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے۔ مظلوم کربلا کو یاد آ گئی سکینہ، بیٹی پہ مصطفیٰ کی کنفوس کا ہاتھ اٹھا، پہلو میں مرتضیٰ کی تلوار رو پڑی ہے، غربت علی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے۔ پہلو بھی ہے شکستہ، ہاتھوں پہ بھی ہے چھالے، ہے آپ کی امانت اب آپ کے حوالے، یہ کہہ کے مرتضیٰ نے میت نبی کو دی ہے، یہ غربت علی، یہ غربت علی ہے، یہ غربت حق مانگنے جو زہرا دربار میں گئی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے، یہ غربت علی ہے۔
ہے بابا تیری زہرا پہ مصیبت کی گھڑی ہے بابا تیری زہرا پہ مصیبت کی گھڑی ہے بابا
مصیبت کی گھڑی ہے بابا تیری زہرا پہ مصیبت کی گھڑی ہے بابا تیری زہرا بابا کیسے دروازہ ہٹاؤں کیسے محسن کو بچاؤں سانس سینے میں رکی ہے تیری کی گھڑی ہے بابا کیسے دروازہ ہٹاؤں کیسے محسن کو بچاؤں سانس سینے میں رکی ہے تیری زہرا ہے بابا ہاتھ میں جس کے میرا ہاتھ دیا تھا تم نے ہاتھ میں جس کے میرا ہاتھ دیا تھا تم نے کہہ کے من کن تو جسے مولا کہا تھا تم نے میں نے ہر موڑ پہ بابا ساتھ اس کا ہے نبھایا ہاں میرا جرم یہی ہے تیری ہائے بابا تیری امت نے بنا دی ہے یہ حالت بابا تیری امت نے بنا دی ہے یہ حالت بابا کوئی پسلی بھی نہیں میری سلامت بابا سانس لیتی ہوں میں جس دم رکنے لگتا ہے میرا دم صرف مرنے کی کمی ہے تیری زہرا ہائے بابا کیسے دروازہ ہٹاؤں کیسے محسن کو بچاؤں سانس سینے میں رکی ہے تیری ہائے بابا کبھی دربار میں پیشی کو بلاتے ہیں ہمیں کبھی دربار میں پیشی کو بلاتے ہیں ہمیں کبھی دروازے پہ آ کے ستاتے ہیں ہمیں میرے یہ پھول سے بچے پوچھتے ہیں یہی مجھ سے کیا خطا ہم سے ہوئی ہے تیری کی گھڑی ہے ہائے بابا شرم آتی ہے بھلا تم کو بتاؤں کیسے شرم آتی ہے بھلا تم کو بتاؤں کیسے یہ تماچوں کے نشاں تم کو دکھاؤں کیسے تم نہ پہچان سکو گے دیکھ کر مجھ کو کہوگے کیا میری زہرا یہی ہے کیسے دروازہ ہٹاؤں کیسے محسن کو بچاؤں سانس سینے میں رکی ہے تیری زہرا پہ مصیبت کی گھڑی ہے.